What are the major challenges faced by rice millers in India in terms of new technology adoption?
So, to talk about the Indian market, Indian rice mills in terms of technology adoption are slightly behind other countries, like especially from the Southeast Asia, like Vietnam or Philippines or Indonesia. There are a lot of other countries, including Thailand. There are a lot of other countries that are producing rice and they're processing it with much more advanced technology than Indian rice mills are doing it right now. So, the Indian rice mills still have a long way to catch up. Now, coming to the recent technologies that are being adopted, 10 years ago, the most recent technology that was adopted in the rice industry was the vertical polisher, right? So, which polishes your white rice to an even finer extent and it also reduces the breakage of rice. In the last 3 or 4 years now, the another trend that is catching up with customers is the optical color sorter. Right? What a color sorter does in a rice mill is basically it removes the dark yellows and the blacks from the white rice. Thereby, what it does is the bag of rice that you're buying at your supermarket, the quality of that bag also goes up and also the consistency, right? So that is a product recently that rice millers are starting to adopt. Now, coming to what are the issues with adoption, like every industry, there's a problem with skilled labor. So rice mills are looking forward to adopting new technology, but they're finding that the workforce that is required to operate these new technologies, right? The skilled labor is not really there. So they have to hire them and skill them themselves. So that is a problem right now.
How do you cater to the varying requirements of different rice millers?
So basically, in the Indian market, there's about three segments, right? At the bottom, there is a value segment. At the top, there is a very high premium segment, and in the middle is where like the premium players are playing. So we are fortunately in the middle segment. So I'm better placed to answer your question. I can give you perspective of how the bottom segment of customers are thinking. Also, at the top customers are thinking. Now, for the bottom customers, it's all about cost cutting. They just want to set up the most basic rice mill possible, supply to the most basic consumers possible, whether it's their local farmers, where the farmers bring the paddy and then the milled rice is given back to the farmer, or they do basic government work, right? So, which runs only 2 to 3 months a year. So, their whole agenda, the bottom segment, is to cut costs and to save as much money as possible because they're only running for 3 or 4 months a year. Now, the top segment, on the other hand, will be looking for product quality over price because they are the ones who are exporting to countries like Dubai and the UAE and the Middle Eastern countries and to Europe also and to a lot of countries in America as well, right? So for that purpose, the top segment actually prefers product quality over price, and the bottom segment only is looking for purely a price play from manufacturers. So we are sitting in the middle segment. So what we try to do is balance both product price and quality. So we are trying to offer similar kind of almost 99% of the world class equipment that our top segment is offering, which is the Germans and the Japanese competition that we have, but at almost Indian prices, right? At almost Indian or even Chinese prices. So that's where we're trying to play. We're in the middle segment that way.
What are the major differentiating factors that set your company apart from other players in this segment?
So the first factor is product quality. When we make our products, we don't really cut corners. So our machines are much better built than our competition. Even if you take the same price range, some of our competitors are selling machines that have a lifetime value of 5 to 10 years maximum, whereas our machines are running for 15 years or more. So that itself is a huge value proposition for our customers because the machines are running for longer, right? And they're giving more service to the customers. That's one area where we are very strong. The second is pure legacy. We've been in business for about 46 years now. So that gives you a level of trust with the huge customer base that we have. So when customers place a big order with us, they know the product efficiencies will be on point. They know that the delivery will be on time. And they also know that the output that we promised for each machine will be guaranteed by our company. So those are some of the two major factors.
How do you ensure the longevity of your machines?
Right. So there's two things basically. The first is that we simply use better components. So any machine quality is dependent on how high the quality of the components are, right? So the components we're using, whether it's abrasive stones or whether it's the steel we're purchasing or whether it's the nuts and bolts and whether it's the screens and everything, all of that we make sure that it's top quality. The second is that the process of production itself, there is a way we produce the equipment. Because of our experience, we have learned how exactly we cut the machines, how exactly we bend the metal, how exactly we get efficiencies, right? right? So those are the two main things. One is we use better components, and two is we use a better process than our competition. So for the we are not really planning anything for the near future because nobody knows what the near future is going to hold. So that for the next 3 or 6 months, our plan is only to strengthen our existing customer base, and then we wait and watch. We go about our business as usual. Beyond 6 months, maybe it will become more clear on whether there's a real hit on the industry as such or not, because we're in food processing and specifically rice processing, and you would imagine that food being an essential commodity is insular to these sort of things because food will have to be consumed at the end of the day, right? So right now it looks like the hit on the food processing industry and the rice processing industry is very minimal. But again, we'll know better in the next 3 to 6 months. You might see existing players start to come out and invest in new plants, or you might see new players coming out. Because another big factor is right now banks are coming out and offering loans at much more attractive interest rates. So you might always see newer customers getting into the rice milling business, whereas existing customers might be a little hesitant to invest.
How do you help your customers understand the ROI which they can get by using your products?
It's basically you have to educate your customer and you have to invest a lot on your sales teams and the sales team procedures and the sales process we're following. So we have to educate our customers on why we are better, right? It just doesn't, just because we say we have 15-year lifetime value compared to another manufacturer which is 5 or 10, that is not really an instant sell to most customers in India. So they're looking for something more. So we also have other factors that come into play. So in our segment for the product quality we're also giving the best price, and price is always a very is a huge factor in decision making in the Indian markets. So that is another factor. The second is after sales service. So if a customer is comparing us to a manufacturer from the bottom segment who's much cheaper and his product value, the lifetime value of his product is much lower, like 5 years or 6 years, we always pitch in the point where our after sales service is far superior to that particular competitor. So it's all about educating. Firstly, it starts with educating your sales team and training up your sales team in the right sales processes on how to educate the customer. And then you have to trust your sales team to then go out into the market and then educate the customers.
How do you ensure that your products integrate easily with the existing equipment of the customer?
So basically, the point you raise is a very good one because almost 50 to 60% of our business actually comes from partial buys and part orders. They're not really orders for full rice mills or new rice mills, right? So these come from customers who are usually investing and upgrading their old equipment, or they're only renovating their mill. Now, the first thing is that there's about 8 to 10 machines that sit in a rice processing line, and each of these machines functions. Most of the machines, they function independently, right? So if the customer wants to replace machine number 4, 5, and 6, we're happy to do it. The only thing we make sure is that we check out the capacities of machine number 3 and also the capacities of machine number 7 if they're going to be compatible with the machines that we are giving, right? We educate the customer on what are the advantages of taking other machines also from us. If still the customer doesn't want to purchase all the machines and he only wants to go for a partial buy, then we educate the customer as much as possible, and we make sure that there's no liabilities for the company in the long term, because we don't want any unhappy customers because of non-compatible machines. So we take all those sorts of measures, and for specific cases where the machines are not compatible, we refuse to take the order. So we prefer to have 100 happy customers over 110 customers and then 10 of them being unhappy.
Which are the other markets you are catering to and how different is the demand there?
So currently we're catering to almost 20 states plus in the Indian market. And if it comes outside India, we're supplying to 6 countries. I think last year we supplied to 6 countries. The year before we supplied to the same 6 countries and another couple of other countries. So overall we're exporting to a lot of countries in Southeast Asia, in Africa, and also a little bit in Latin America. Now the difference between, I'd like to split the customers into 2 segments. One is Indian, the domestic customer. The domestic customer, for him, it's overridingly about what is the price point at, what is also the product quality, what is also the customer service. He wants the entire piece of the pie, and he wants a well-balanced, manufacturer who can supply a good product with good after-sales service and also at the perfect price point. Now, when you go to the international customers, our exports customers, they're mainly tilting towards product quality because they are setting up their plants at higher capacities. They're setting up their plants in foreign countries. They're also setting it up for the longer term. They're looking at 10 years or 12 years of horizon in that industry. So they are very concerned about product quality, and they are concerned about the capabilities of the manufacturer to deliver the machines on time and also to commission these plants. For the Indian consumers, commissioning doesn't really come into play because they commission the plants themselves with local contractors. But when it's an export project, we have to commission the project ourselves. So the export customers are also evaluating us consistently on, can this particular company deliver the project on time? Can they also commission the project and finish the trial run and give the green light on time, right? So that's how the two customers are different.
How do you ensure customer satisfaction throughout the deployment cycle?
We start with customer service even before a machine is installed. So what we do is, even before the machine is installed, we are sending out our technicians to inspect the site to make sure that the local contractor that the customer has hired is doing everything according to our drawings and our plan, right? So if we can root out those problems at that stage itself, we have seen that about 80% of the problems go away if before trial run itself we rectify these problems. And then we're left with only about 20 to 30% of issues, which is common with any machine. So how we cater to that after sales is that we have a network of about 35 service technicians in India, each of them stationed to major rice milling districts across the country. As soon as we get a call from the customer, we're sending service technicians to the mill within 48 hours. So that we make sure that the service technician reaches on time along with the necessary spare parts, so that the replacement of a spare part or the repair is done, and then the mill can get back up online. Right now, the strategy will be, I mean, the strategy has changed, of course, in the last 3 months because of COVID-19. COVID-19 has hit every industry, and I'm sure it's disrupted the strategies of every company in every industry. So we are yet to correct ourselves. We are right now having a look at our strategy and how we need to change it, because most businesses right now would want to stick to their existing bread and butter businesses rather than diversification. So we will proceed with caution before entering industries, but we're definitely looking at a couple of food grains in the Indian segment. For example, quinoa processing is a big segment that is going to pick up in the next 5 years. There's also millets that is going to pick up. As more and more health conscious customers in the urban areas, they start to opt for low carb options or superfoods like quinoa and millets and other sorts of grains. So we manufacturers are also looking to get into making new machines that can process these new sorts of grains, right? So that is one particular thing. And the other thing we're looking at is a strong exports focus that will remain. So in the last 2 years, we've pushed our company and we've invested heavily in trying to kickstart our exports. So the last 2 years have been very good for us, and we're hoping to keep up the pace in terms of exporting our products to other countries. So there are two activities that we're doing. One is we're educating the customers with conferences, with meetings with local rice mill associations on what are the what are the updated practices that are taking place in the rice milling industry. So we are in a privileged position to walk into rice mills across the world. So we are getting a chance to look at what are the processes being followed by rice mills in different continents, right? So we are trying to bring some of that back and educate our own Indian rice millers as to what they should be doing, what are the new safety procedures or standards that they should be adopting. So that is one part we're doing. We're also doing another part where any rice miller who buys a full mill with us can actually send their rice mill operator, right, who's on their payroll. He can send them to us, and we'll be, for a period of 15 days, we'll be training that particular operator on how exactly to operate our machines, right? So as I said before in the interview, skilled labor is right now a problem. So we're helping rice millers with skilling their employees right now.
What is your company's strategy for post-pandemic times?
I just want to conclude on what we're doing as a company. As a company right now, post-COVID, we'll be looking at strengthening our domestic market. And the other thing we'll be looking at is focusing on exports and improving the exports. And also we recently launched a new color sorter product. So we launched that about a year and a half to 2 years ago, and the sales for that is very strong. So we are trying to boost our sales even more in that new product line that we're launching. But otherwise, in a post-COVID world, all of the manufacturers, I'm sure, in the industry are right now waiting, and they're going to be taking a keen interest in how things develop in the next 3 to 6 months. and then you will really be starting to see major strategic changes from companies only after maybe another 3 or 6 months. Until then, it will be business as usual and low key.